Hey everyone, we just got off a $20,000 airline suite, the first class Q Suites on Qatar Airlines, and wow, it was absolutely amazing. I'm going to break down every aspect of flying a Q Suite, how we book this with points for a fraction of the cost, and how you can go ahead and do the same thing as well. I'm going to break down every piece of information about flying with the Qatar Q Suites, what we liked, what we didn't like, what the check-in experience was like, how the lounges were, how it was spending 9 hours in an airport lounge in Doha, and everything in between, from sleeping on the bed, using the massage features, and most importantly, how you can book this luxurious airline seat for a fraction of the cost. And we're talking $50 instead of $20,000. So let's go ahead and dig right in. You're going to want to stick around to the end, where I share those important details on how we went ahead and actually booked this trip. So make sure you stick around, and let's go ahead and get started on the Qatar Q Suites in-depth full review. So starting off with a bit of context, we spent about 7 days in Dubai, and they have absolutely accelerated the process of checking in, getting a really fast test at the airport. We were so shocked how fast the process was. It was extremely streamlined. So if you're hesitant to go through all these hurdles and travel processes of visiting Dubai, I highly recommend it. It was extremely seamless, and we had such a great time visiting Dubai, and a lot of great experiences which weren't as expensive as you might think. And again, that'll be some details for another video. But we spent 7 days in Dubai, and we were very excited for our Q Suites departure. I've actually never been this excited for a flight, even though I've flown first class and business class in the past. The Q Suites are something that I've always dreamed about traveling in, a actual bed in the sky, and this was going to happen. Now, in the past, I've had some routes where it was supposed to be a Q Suite, and at the end of the day, it did not work out. So again, I had one or two instances where I was supposed to be flying on Q Suite, but they switch out the planes. And again, that's one thing to note is, even though your route is fairly certain it's going to be a Q Suite, there's still some last minute changes that can happen. They can change the plane, or certain things can happen to impact that. So always keep a monitor on that. And in another part of this video, I'll share how you can actually check if your flight is going to be a Q Suite, what routes they're flying, and everything. So starting off, once we got to the airport, this is the ground experience. This is going to be the first segment. I'm going to talk about the ground experience, the actual cabin and seat, what the amenities were like, the food and beverages, and then the actual service. And then at the very end, talk to you about how we booked this flight for just $50 per person. Starting off the ground experience, the route we were flying was Dubai to Doha, Doha to Seattle, and then Seattle to Burbank. Our final destination was Los Angeles. Unfortunately, we couldn't find availability for the Doha to LAX flight, which would have been the same price, but they just did not have availability, unfortunately, for two people. So that's the reason we kind of took a little bit of a longer route to make sure we got the Q Suites. If you're going to be wanting to get this bed, which is pictured below, you're going to need 2 seats, or get lucky and have that extra seat available, which right now is a possibility because the flight we were on was not very full. And I think a lot of airlines are flying at 70–80% capacity. That's one thing to keep in mind, is if you're flying for a couple, this is definitely the best way to do it, getting these certain seats that can fold into a bed. Not every seat is available to look like this. So keep that in mind. If you're flying solo, make sure you book one of the center ones that are available for folding into a couple, and you might luck out and be able to ask them to fold it into a full-on bed. Now, the check-in experience at Dubai Airport was probably the worst part of this whole experience. The lines for business class travelers, it seemed like they just kind of grouped everyone together. It wasn't extremely streamlined, but luckily it did move a lot faster after a while. I think there was just a few people that were having issues with getting checked in. They had a lot of luggage, they had a big family. Once that was over, overall the check-in process at Dubai is extremely fast. They have kind of the virtual check-in, so you just swipe your passport and then they allow you to go in, and they have all the information about your flight details. So we had 2 lounge options at the Dubai airport. The first one was the gallery lounge, and this is a lounge included if you're flying business or first class. Unfortunately, the Qatar Airlines lounge is closed, So this was the best option. And honestly, if you're up for taking a little bit of a walk and detour, it wasn't too far, but we ended up going to the gallery lounge. The reviews and consensus is it's a lot nicer and a lot better than the priority pass of the Owlin Lounge. After being to both, I can definitely agree that the food is a lot better. I haven't had a chance to go to it during these times when a lot of things are more a la carte. But overall, we were really impressed. It's essentially, I would say, more of a restaurant feel than an actual lounge. The food was really good. If you only have a bit of a limited time, it might be better to just grab a bite to eat there. We ate a little too much, but luckily the way the business class meals work out, it wasn't too big of a deal, and the timing was great because our flight from Dubai to Doha is only an hour, and they just give you a little bit of snack. So definitely check out the Gallery Lounge in Terminal 3. And again, I would recommend it over the Priority Pass Lounge. So once we went ahead and actually got ready to board our flight, we had a really quick, it's like an hour and a half flight from Dubai to Doha. This was a seamless experience. Our seats were, again, the Qsuites. So on this flight, the food was actually pretty decent. It was a little bit smaller quantity. We had champagne at takeoff. We had some water as well. And the meal that we ordered was a bit of a mixed stuff. It was hummus. It was like a fried egg. I'll post a photo here. It was a salad. And the shawarma was actually extremely delicious. So it was good. I'm glad I tried it. And again, one thing to note is I'll make sure to leave all of the menus. I actually took a scan of these menus. So if you're interested in what you can order on all these flights, I'll leave those details in the description below, and you can download those for free. And overall, the service was great. It was such a short flight that, again, it was great to be in the Qsuites, but we were really prepping up for the big long-haul 15-hour flight from Doha to Seattle. So once we landed in Doha, it was an extremely easy transition to get through the airport. We went through the transfer area. There was nobody there at all. I would say it took us about 5 minutes. They were sending everyone through the business class area. But one of the great perks is if you're flying business or first class, during busy times, they have a separate transfer area just for business class people. But because the airport was so empty, they were just sending everyone through that. Once we got there, we essentially went straight to the business class lounge. Man, this was like walking into an Apple store for the first time. It was insanely beautiful. The Al Morjan business class lounge in the airport, in the Doha airport, is stunning. The first impression is just absolutely incredibly gorgeous. As soon as you walk in there, it's one of the nicest lounges I've ever been in, and I've stayed in a lot of lounges all around the world. The space is absolutely massive. It's got to be like 3 football fields or something like that when you walk through the whole lounge. And at this time, since we had a late night flight, we wanted to snag a sleeping area as soon as possible because we knew a lot of flights were going to be coming in. Those sleeping areas get a little bit harder to snag. So once we got to the airport, we immediately went over to the sleeping area because we were, a little tired. We weren't that hungry because we ate a big meal on the plane. So we actually had a little snack because once we got to the sleeping room, they said the first available room would be ready in 30 minutes. So we grabbed some drinks, we grabbed a little snack and just waited for that. And essentially they came over, after our 30 minutes, we went in for our reservation. And from my understanding, you can basically reserve these rooms only by showing up. I don't believe you can reserve them ahead of time, but maybe that's something to look into if you have a really tight window when it's going to be busy. So there's 2 of us, and essentially our room was just a couch, a floor, and then a chair, which was really comfortable, for one person, but for 2 people, we ended up just trying to reserve another room. But once we got there, it would have been better for us to just take a look at the rooms and reserve 2 rooms. So if you're traveling with a group of people, it's probably best if you want to do some actual sleeping, best to get a few rooms for each person or each individual, unless you want to rough it on the floor. The floor wasn't too bad, but again, it's not going to be nearly as comfortable as a couch. Some of the rooms had extended areas where it was kind of like a chair and an ottoman where you could kind of lay out on that. But again, I'll post some videos and some photos here of what these rooms look like. And again, make sure that's the first thing you do if you're wanting to get some sleep. We had 8 hours of a layover here, so we were very much tired. It was an overnight thing, so we were wanting to get some sleep and some rest before our long haul flight. Again, this place is beautiful. Like, we reserved the rooms, slept for around 4 or 5 hours. I woke up around a couple hours before our flight and had a nice shower in the bathrooms there. They have private showers and bathrooms that are really nice, really clean. You can reserve these as well if you have a certain time that you want to get up and reserve those. But they have a lot of showers, so it shouldn't be as busy. It's kind of tucked away in a back part of the lounge. So after the shower, we went ahead and grabbed some food. We had a little bit of a tight schedule just because we overslept a little bit. Luckily, we were able to try and order some of the a la carte food. And man, this place is so nice. They have everything you could dream of. They have a little buffet where you just kind of point out what you want and they'll make a plate for you. They also have a really good in-depth menu for ordering a la carte items. Once we went there, again, you know, this lounge is huge, but they're still going to be at capacity at some points or busy times of the day. Our actual breakfast time was full, so we had to wait around, they said it was going to be 10 or 15 minutes, but it was only turned out to be like 3 or 4 minutes until they had an open table. So we did have to wait a little bit, but it was definitely worth the wait. We had eggs Benedict with salmon, and everything we had there was absolutely delicious. The servers come up and greet you, they deliver the food. Everything was extremely speedy, and essentially we wanted to kind of eat fairly quickly. We had iced coffee, some breakfast, but we wanted to go a little bit quickly because we know in Doha you do have to go through a secondary check if you're flying to the United States, which can take a little bit longer depending on if you're business class or economy. I would say at least get there 30 to 45 minutes before your flight at the latest. So we went through there and, you know, they're going to scan your luggage again, check your passport. And again, you know, this check is required for all the flights going to the United States. So a little bit of a hassle, but luckily if you're able to time it right, you go straight on to boarding. We had about a 5-minute wait before we started actual boarding. And, you know, that's the great thing about business class is you can get on, you can get settled, you can get some drinks. That's the thing that I always really don't like about a lot of these secondary boarding areas, because there's usually no water or bathroom. So if you have a long wait in there, it's not going to be great. Or if your flight's delayed or something. So keep that in mind before you go there. You know that you're probably not going to be able to bring in water or any other drinks. Once we boarded the plane, we were in seats 5F and 5E, which again, you can use some software to figure out which seats are going to convert into beds, which seats are available. You can even create alerts and stuff. Luckily, when I booked this flight, I was able to have the agent help us out picking the best available seats for couples that actually transfer into a bed. But 5F and 5E on this route definitely transfer into a double bed, which is absolutely gorgeous. Once we got on, our amenity kits were sitting there for both of us. They had the male version for me. They had the female version for my girlfriend. Both of these bags were absolutely cool. They were loaded with a lot of cool items, face masks, socks, facial spray, and a lot of other essential amenities. Overall, these bricks amenity kits are such a nice feature of flying, and they're really cool. They actually are very nice and practical at the same time. So definitely a great thing. And if you already have a few of these make really great gifts. So one of the other things that was waiting for us was our pajamas. And again, these sizes run a little strange. So luckily they were able to give us a few sizes. I would say a medium is going to be a little bit tight. I'm 6'3". That's what I went with. Probably would have been fine with large as well. It really just depends on how loose you want it. If you want it looser, go a size up. But they do run a little bit big. And these are the white company pajamas. And again, this is a great feature because they were extremely comfy. Flights can get a little bit cold, so it's nice having a comfy pajamas, especially when you're wanting to sleep a little bit. After our first meal, we got changed into our pajamas, and it was a really nice experience to be flying in comfort. So one of the first things we did, of course, was getting some champagne. Again, the champagne is all pretty good. We had the Pommery Brut Royale champagne to take off. And again, this is a really nice bottle. It was pretty delicious. So once we got settled into our seats, we kind of took a look at the menu. And the way they have it structured is you can essentially order anything you want at any time. They don't have sort of set times where you have to eat, which is really great because, you know, depending on where you're coming from, your body might be craving food at different times. But essentially anything you want at any time they're going to do their best to get it. I would say if you do want something, go ahead and reserve that. You know, for example, we wanted to try the lobster and we went ahead and reserved that. and you can just tell them when you want it ready. So that's something that I really enjoyed about this flight was, being able to pick and choose what meals you want. Ahead of time, you can lock those in case there's a busy flight. You want to make sure you do get your food options. So make sure to go ahead and put those orders in early. And then once you get hungry, you can tell them, hey, I'm hungry. Can you bring me this dish or this piece of food? My first impressions of these seats were absolutely blown away. Like, these seats are so nice. I love the fact that you can kind of close the door. Flight attendants do an absolutely wonderful job of giving you the right amount of privacy. So that way, they're not overly bugging you unless you really need something. They do come and check in for you, and our flight attendants were great. They were willing to take a few photos of us. Just they really do go above and beyond and make your flight experience special. They could tell that we were traveling together as a couple, and they were willing to really get some good photos of us, which is always a lot of fun. So starting off, the first thing we had was a smoothie and some nuts, and man, this smoothie was really good. I ended up actually ordering another one later on in the flight. It's a 15-hour flight, so essentially got to try it twice, and this was probably one of the best. So starting off for our first meal, I had the black mushroom crepe filled with chive scrambled eggs. It came with a veal bratwurst sausage, grilled vegetables, and this was absolutely delicious. It came with a butter croissant. It came with some other things that were just so good. I would say this was one of the best meals. I just love breakfast, so maybe that's why. I also got some Greek yogurt, some seasonal fruit, and a few other sides along with this. My girlfriend had the croque monsieur, which was good. Overall, I would say the black mushroom crepe was absolutely delicious, and everything along for the breakfast was so good. We really enjoyed this meal. Another drink we had that was really good was the Sojini. This is a non-alcoholic or mocktail. Essentially, it's just an alcohol-free pink sparkling beverage. It was really delicious. I would say overall, as far as the mocktails, the pineapple margarita was delicious. That was something that I absolutely loved. I had that multiple times on the flight. Also, in addition to that, iced coffee, and then I had a lot of chamomile tea with honey and lemon. I'm pretty sure I drank all of the chamomile tea, so I apologize if you're on this flight. I was drinking that. It was so good. I was drinking that, and I just drink a lot of water, so I was trying to stay hydrated on this flight. But overall, the breakfast was delicious. Afterwards, we kind of just chilled out. I would say overall, our flight was around 15 hours. We probably slept around 5 or 6 hours. Because it was a daytime flight, we slept a little bit behind. I think, combined total sleeping for that whole day was 8 or 9 hours, including 4 or 5 hours the night before. 4 or 5 hours on the actual plane. We just, really enjoyed the actual experience, which was good because when you're enjoying a bed in the sky, it's great to enjoy some sleep, but you don't want to sleep the whole 15 hours. So it was great to get some food, get a lot of great drinks, and actually enjoy the whole experience, watching some movies. And overall, I would say the entertainment system was great. There were a lot of movies. I honestly just think like 2020, 2021 has not been the best year for movies. The entertainment system, they have enough to keep you entertained for the whole flight. I was able to watch a few movies, which were actually pretty decent. One of the new Star Wars one was probably the top one. We also watched a movie called Knives Out, which was really good. It was kind of like a Clue murder mystery movie. So they do definitely have enough movies to keep you entertained and some good TV. And actually, we really enjoyed some of the games. I was playing Angry Birds, and they have Guess Who and a few other games on there. So they have plenty to do. But again, I just think this time doesn't have the best movies out, but they have some of the classics and some great movies to keep you entertained. So overall, I would say after the first 4 or 5 hours of just sitting in the seat, getting our food, we had them convert it into a full-on bed. And this is great. Like, honestly, the whole flight was pretty much in the bed mode. They have certain seats that can kind of fold into this sort of compilation. So make sure you're checking to see if your seat is eligible before you fly. Because if you're flying with a couple, it's going to be a lot better if you're able to transform it into this kind of double bed. So one other thing to note is if you're looking to use the Wi-Fi on the plane, it came with a complimentary hour, and the speed tests were pretty good. I would say overall the Wi-Fi was decent. Of course, it's going to be good for sending some emails, text messages, that type of thing. You're not going to be able to stream movies or anything like that, so make sure you download some movies offline on Netflix. That's something we love to do. So we always make sure we have at least a big database of downloaded movies for Netflix to watch on any flight. So the next meal we had was the afternoon tea. This was going to be fresh finger sandwiches, warm scones, clotted cream, and French pastries. We also had the artesian bread, which was delicious. In addition to this, so I had that to start off. My girlfriend had the lobster as her first kind of, say this was our lunch, essentially. And the lobster was pretty delicious. It's, you know, it's a unique experience getting lobster flying, you know, in the sky in a bed. So basically having lobster in bed on an airplane was definitely a unique experience. So we had a light lunch because, you know, we ate a big breakfast, and essentially we were kind of just trying everything on the menu. If you wanted more or less, they would pretty much give you anything you want. So depending on how much you want to eat, I definitely recommend trying as much as you can because it's all included. It's all delicious. The portion sizes are great. They're not super huge, but they're going to be enough to fill you up. So after we finished lunch, we had a really, you know, kind of a little bit of a sleep. We watched some movies and stuff. And overall, the flight was such a spectacular thing. A few other things to note, the last kind of meals we had. We tried the chicken matchbouz, which was delicious. It was a little bit spicy, but overall it was really good. We did have the signature Arabic meze, which was hummus and a bunch of other things accompanying that. And overall, we kind of tried a little bit of everything. There was a few things that we didn't try because we were just so full the entire time. And overall, I had the crab for my final meal, and that was delicious, along with some other sides. I would say the crab's a great option, but you're going to need a few other side dishes to fill you up. Overall, I would say this flight was absolutely worth it. It was such a great experience. And now we'll go ahead and do the big reveal about how you can actually book this same flight for a fraction of the cost. So I used 70,000 American Airlines miles, and I opened the Aviator business card from American Airlines. That gives you exactly what you need. You only need to spend around $1,000. I did have some issues with this card, so I wouldn't recommend it. I actually voted it my worst credit card. There's a lot of better options. So look at the other American Airlines credit cards, and that's going to be the best value for booking this flight. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we were able to find availability for one seat on the Doha to LAX. Depending on what flight route you're going, how many people you're traveling with, you'll have to play around with it a bit. It was actually a bit of a hassle to find the right route, you know, check multiple times. I was checking every few days just to see. And the way I found this route was by selecting two people, making sure that you're putting in a lot of those filters. But the system could be a little bit buggy, especially with American, or if you're trying to find other like third-party flights, like using Google Flights, using Expert Flyer, or any of these third-party aggregators. A lot of times it's better to just tell them, hey, here's where I'm trying to get. I want to get a Qsuite. Again, the agent that I had was extremely friendly. Once I found the route and the dates and the availability, I called in and said, hey, I want to lock in these seats. I actually overall reserved like 3 or 4 different times, put a few things on hold. But this flight route was guaranteed to be the Qsuites. For this flight, I got 70,000 points from the AA Advantage Aviator World Elite Business MasterCard, which again, there's a lot better cards out there. I just had already signed up for these. So start with those cards, start with the AA Advantage cards, just the normal ones. The business one was a huge hassle. I'll leave a link below in the description discussing why that's one of the worst credit cards I've ever signed up for. But again, once you have 70,000 points, you can book a Qsuite for just around $50 to $60 in taxes. And again, these flight seats can range up to $10,000 per person. So for 2 of us, 20 grand for just $100 was absolutely worth it. 140,000 American Advantage points. So overall, comparing this to economy, the economy edition would have been 40,000 points. So for an extra 30,000 points, you can go from economy to a lie flat double bed seat. And it is absolutely worth the experience of getting the lounge access at, you know, both airports in Dubai and Doha, getting the experience of being in first class for 16 hours, having a bed, and you're going to show up so much more well rested to your final destination that it is 100% worth it. This is one of the best points redemptions I've ever had. for 70,000 AA Advantage points. It's a steal for $10,000 normally to book these same seats. And again, if you're traveling with a couple, make sure you do your extra due diligence. I'll leave some resources below to figure out how you can find. I use Seat Guru, Expert, Flyer to kind of figure out how to do this. And again, I'm going to be breaking down some of these videos into smaller chunks. So make sure you subscribe to get alerted about those if you want to learn more about flight hacking, entrepreneurship, and a lot of other, nomadic experiences. Make sure you hit subscribe. I'm publishing 1 to 2 videos every week. And again, thank you so much for your help and support in this channel. Let me know below, did you learn something new? Leave a comment if you would fly in this double bed in the sky, or if you've had a first class experience or any other type of great flying experience. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day.